The distinct spire of the Chrysler building briefly marked the structure as the tallest building in the world. But did you ever stop to consider what's actually inside of it? Well, before we answer that question, allow me to offer a little context. You see, the spire at the top of the building is its most well-recognized feature, constructed of stainless steel and featuring a sunburst pattern. As a result of this masterpiece, built between 1928 and 1930, the skyscraper was briefly the tallest building in the world until the opening of the Empire State Building in 1931. You see, the Chrysler building surprised everyone with its spire in 1928 when it was formally added to the top of the structure, breaking the world record and casting a new shadow on the Eiffel Tower. These types of stunts were not uncommon in the era known as the race for the sky, a time when skyscrapers grew in urban areas as the population density grew during the second half of the 19th century and the start of the 20th. Skyscrapers began to be built for residential purposes as cities started to run out of horizontal space. Previously, skyscrapers were constructed exclusively for commercial use. During construction, the spire was built inside the building in secrecy, with designers knowing full well that it would eventually sit on top. This was all part of a scheme to surprise competing architects, and so the Chrysler designer, William Van Allen, decided to reveal the spire at the end of the construction period, shocking the public, especially the nearby designer of 40 Wall Street, as the two architects were competing to become the designers of the tallest building in the world. Although Van Allen would be victorious, the Empire State Building would break his record a few years later. So yes, the Chrysler Building is an iconic piece of New York City's history, but one question remains: what's inside of that famous spire? The top floors of the building are designed with occupants in mind, and hence the penthouse floors held the private offices for Walter Chrysler, but have since been converted into a dental clinic. The 71st floor held an observation deck from 1930 to 1945 that was called Celestial. Visitors had to pay 50 cents to enter and were greeted by hanging grass plants. The 6 floors above the observation deck were not built for visitors. Instead, they existed to support the structure. This includes physical supports such as steel bars and supplies to keep the building running. In the crown of the Chrysler Building, television transmitters were held for stations like WCBS-TV from 1938 to 1960. WPAT-FM and WTFM also transmitted from the crown, but by the early 1970s, they were all moved to the Empire State Building. Well, the skyscraper's exterior is well known for its distinct style. The spire's interior is a claustrophobic series of reinforcement bars and ladders. The interior here was clearly not designed with aesthetics in mind, as it's all industrial. There are short hallways surrounded by fences securing the structure's wall. To summit the inside of this spire, one must access a red ladder that sticks out physically through a hole in the ceiling. Visually, the bright red contrasts the otherwise industrial grays of the room, and only by this ladder may workers access the top levels of the spire. Other ladders do feed through crossed industrial bars, but these ladders are also uniform gray, suggesting that it is yet another form of industrial support rather than a passageway. However, one other feature does stand out up here: a triangular window made up of geometric patterns, perhaps a reference to the geometrical design of the exterior. While technically physically accessible, the interior of the Chrysler Spire was clearly not designed to be frequented on the inside, as walkways are so narrow that they can only fit one person at a time. And yet, despite this relatively bland interior, those lucky enough to visit will see a view of the city that is otherwise unknown to most. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Let me know what spire you'd like to see the inside of next in the comment section below, and please consider subscribing. Until next time, this is Ryan Sokash signing off.